Welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions. We're going to wrap up episode 15, and if you hear any barking or growling or moaning or like weird noises in the background, it's probably one of the 3 beagles that I have in bed with me right now. But let's finish this thing. We're going to grind it out and hopefully level up. Probably not this time. Maybe next episode.
And that's very harmful. It's like you have the option to stay away from me. You have the option to wear, I have no problem with a mask. I have no problem with anyone wearing a mask. I do not care. But if you are for someone coming over to me and putting me in a cage, holding me hostage, then we have a real problem. See, and it's all based on a lie, because you believe what the scientists say, the mainstream scientists. You believe what the government says.
Right. This is another one that I just thought of. There are 3 types of lies. There's lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Right.
But I can't remember who said that, but I always got a kick out of that, because that's what we're talking about, because people buy into scientism like we were talking about last time, and they take scientific statistics, scientism-tific statistics, however you want to say that, these scientismists that are out there, they take these statistics as 100%. And we have to realize that, we've been lied to for on tens of thousands of years. We've been being lied to by these dark occult manipulators for so long. And it's just become so normal for people. It's just an everyday thing for people. But, Nietzsche said, I'm not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset from now on. I can't believe you, and that's what we do. We can't believe these people anymore. You can't trust these people. And that's how you're walking around in this everyday lifestyle, is that, everywhere you look, there's agents of the states, someone who's going to call the cops on you for not wearing a mask, someone who's going to put you in that position of being held at gunpoint for not doing the status quo and living up to this code that's based off of little to no evidence at all. And we have to be real careful about that. And this is why, most people that are in the truth community, most people who are awakened, I should say, have a real big issue with dealing with things in society, because guess what? People in society are not trustworthy. They show it every single day. They advocate for violence to be done upon each individual, including their own children. They advocate for violence to be done onto their own children, and people still don't get that. And you want me to trust these people? Yeah, right. I'm not going to trust these people. They've lied enough. I get it. And they spread the lies. They become the ancillary amplificators of the lies. So I'm done with these people. They have to earn their truth. They have to earn the respect by speaking the truth from now on.
Right.
Yeah.
They have to earn that. You don't get things in this universe without working for them. And since you've already worked towards the negative, conditions, then you are going to have to work a little bit more. You're going to have to work really hard to pull yourself out. And one way by doing that is getting over the ego and admitting that you were wrong and saying, hey,
exactly.
I was wrong.
100%. It is all ego. All ego. Based in fear, because it's just like, what we're talking about with the reptile brain, the R complex. When you're in R complex, you're in fear, you're in survival mode, fight or flight, and all your blood is just going, right up into your neocortex. And so you become very left-brained, and you want to control. And that's where ego comes from, is wanting to control. And so it's really, really important to understand that when we're in that mode, we're not thinking critically. We're not thinking balanced. And we're not really understanding that there's way more to the picture, and that we have to do the homework to really understand, that we might be spreading false information, and it's okay to come out and state. It's okay if you come out and state that you were wrong, and that you made a mistake, because we all make mistakes. We're human. And, but the most important thing, and the thing that I'm going to say over and over on this show, is stop lying to yourself and be honest, because that's really what's going to bring, a more harmonious world, where we actually do see some kind of peace here.
Well, that's how we heal from trauma, too. A lot of people don't realize this, but you have to make the unconscious conscious, or it will become your fate. And if we don't do that, like if we don't start to speak the truth, fully, then we're not dealing with all the trauma. And I mean, people don't, and maybe we can talk about this in a future episode about trauma and healing from trauma, but you have to deal with your personal individual trauma, which is hard enough for an individual at any level, at any age, to deal with some of the traumas that we went through. But then you have to start going back even further, because you're connected to your heritage, you're connected to your species, and you have to start dealing with the trauma that's been epigenetically wired into us, because we're still receiving consequences from our forefathers and things like that have happened to our whole species, and we haven't dealt with these things at the subconscious level.
Right.
So, that's one of the biggest issues. And as long as we're not living in the flow with the cosmic laws, then the ramifications will be very negative. I mean, if you try to break natural law, pretty much it will break you, You cannot break natural law. It's not a break-even thing. We will lose, That's how nature works. We will lose if we're trying to do that. That's why the dark occultists get what they get done, because they understand natural law, and they get other people to break natural law for them. They propagate these ideas down and a trickle-down effect to the lower level acolytes and people that are sitting in positions of power to do these things. I was just talking about this the other day. Everybody thinks the top of the line dark occultists are pedophiles. Well, no, they're not. And you need to realize that they're not. They have other people that are pedophiles. Yeah, maybe a few of them are, but the mass majority of them are not, because they understand natural law, and they understand that they don't want the blunt end of the karmatic repercussions falling onto them, because they want to stay in control. And they're not dumb. They're top-of-the-line psychologists, and they're top-of-the-line occultists. They know how these laws work, and they know how the mind works. And we need to recognize that they are getting these pedophiles to be a fire shield for them, And we have to understand that, we need to stop the pedophiles, but we also have to understand what's causing all of that. What's the causality of that, What is the environment? What's promoting that in our environment? And why are we seeing such a outrageous increase in that, because it is increasing. It's become normalized. And that's because the people that are at the top, the dark occultists, they know how this works, and they know how to get other people to do it for them,
Exactly. So the second question that I have for you, Brandon, is the belief in natural law just another religious stance or a religious ideology?
Well, absolutely not. First of all, natural law has nothing to do with your belief. It's a set of programs in nature. It's not personal. If a child goes to walk off a cliff, natural law isn't going to say, oh, that's an innocent child, I'm not going to enforce the laws of gravity at this point because that's an innocent child. It has nothing to do with you personally, and has nothing to do with whether you recognize it or not. The child doesn't have any idea. Its perception isn't at a high enough level of clarity to know what's going to happen to it, the full ramifications of the consequences of it falling off that cliff. There is no personality to that where it's going to say, hey, you're an innocent being, so I'm suspending natural law for this day. So it has nothing to do with your belief system or whether you know it or not. It has nothing to do with that. All that matters when it comes to whether you believe in it or not is whether you're living in accordance with it, because the results will be different if you do compared to if you don't. So, it's not a belief system. It's a knowledge system. It's a truth-based knowledge system. It's just like any other law in the universe. It's discoverable. It's knowable. It's not based upon your perception. It's repeatable, and it has nothing to do with a religious standpoint either. We're going to break down the word religion here in a little bit, but it has nothing to do with institutionalized belief systems either. It is something that each individual is capable of discovering and knowing for themselves, and you don't even need to learn it from us. You can study it on your own, just from your own observations, if your mind is clear enough to do that. All you have to do is go out and watch causalities and watch the effects of those causalities, and then start to correlate the consequences of that to the causality, to what started it, and you will start to see how natural law plays out. It's very simple. It's repeatable, it's immutable, it's knowable, it's discoverable, and it's not a belief system or a religious stance in any way, shape, or form.
So basically, belief is irrelevant, and when it comes to natural law, it's definitely not another religious stance. And we're going to get into the word religion here, maybe not on this show, but definitely on the next show. So the third question that I have is, how does science prove natural law to be real and true? And that, obviously that's a very loaded question, but if you could give it just in a very brief description, I think that'll be very helpful.
Yeah, I kind of gave a little bit of that just from the last question. You can take the scientific method and you can apply it, and you can see that natural law is based on a science, that it's not just some theory or some wild notion of the mind. You can take it, it's repeatable, it's testable, and you'll get the same results every single time. And you know what? We've been getting the same results for thousands of years, and people still are dunces when it comes to understanding cause and effect and natural law. They still don't get it. Our species has been dealing with this for, who knows really how long, that we've actually been around and been dealing with this. But trust me, it's been plenty. We have had the knowledge here with us long enough to understand this science. And the only reason that we're not getting it through our thick skulls right now is mainly because of the conditions of our consciousness, and because we've been so controlled, ruled, oppressed, and mind controlled for so long, that it's starting to be, if it's not already, wired into our own DNA, that we're becoming genetically wired for slavery, through epigenetics. But yeah, it is a science. So take the scientific method, and I like to use an inductive and deductive technique where they come together and you meet in the middle, like what you were talking about earlier, and then you test that and you repeat it and see if you get the same result. And if you do, you do it again, and then you have that checked by a peer-reviewed source, so you peer review that, so you have another source come in and check that work and see if they can do the same thing, and you get the same result from that, and then you go forward from there. And if that's how that works and it keeps coming back to the same answer, then that's a truth. That is a truth, no matter if you want it to be that way or not, no matter if you believe in it or not. So it's a science, and anybody can try it. Test it out for yourself. Test the law of gravity for yourself all you want.
Right, exactly.
I don't think we should be testing at this point. I think we should already know it. That the question itself, that you even have to state that question alone, shows how far from our actual goal that we need to be, how far we are down on the scale of consciousness, just that you need to state that question shows how freaking dumbed down we really are as a species, because we should naturally, intuitively already know this.
Right. Yeah, we have definitely been veiled by, not veiled. I would say thousands of layers of veils over our eyes from what this is, because, when you're living in a world of materialism, it's really hard to come to understand natural law and the science of natural law. And to see how it works and how it operates, because it's all based in ego.
It blows my mind, actually. Like, I talk to people who are super left brain, right? And I'm trying to bring them into the right brain. And I show them how this is a science. And then they get into these morally relativistic, subjective notions from their own perception, their own, I would call it a hedonistic point of view, where they want to feel good, an egotistical point of view, where they want to be comfortable about the situation. So let's say there's a situation where you have a kid. You'll hear people bring this one up a little bit. You have a kid. He's starving. He has no means of taking care of himself. He's living on the streets, and there's a market, and then he goes and he steals a tomato from, a merchant, right? And they're like, is that a moral action or not? Well, no, it's not a moral action. Get over it, and you need to realize that. That form of theft is destroying somebody else's freedom. Now, we can get into some more details about this, is what I always bring up. Does that child have the capacity to actually feed himself in any other way? Can he go to another source? Can he grow his own food? Can he educate himself? Are there other means that this child can go through to actually get food, before he actually dies from starvation? Well, yes, there are. He's not limited. We always think of it in this extreme way, like that's the only option he has. Could he go to the merchant and ask for it, And then when he goes to the merchant and the merchant says no, now we're getting into a spot where we're like, well, is it a moral obligation then for the merchant to give over a portion of his food to that child, knowing that child's going to starve?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I think it's a moral obligation, It's a moral obligation to help that person. That's why it's called an obligation, and that's why it's called moral, because it's the right action that you are obligated to do in that situation. So, that's how you solve that little conundrum, that issue whenever you're dealing with right and wrong. People are like, oh, well, that's not a wrong. That kind of theft isn't that's a right. That's a theft. That's a right. No, it's not. Get over it. That child shouldn't be stealing, and there's other ways that you can get around that where no theft has to take place.
Right. And it's because most people don't apply that idea to themselves. They don't apply those actions to them, like if it's being done to them. They're not wearing the shoes. And, because, and if they do say like, oh, it's right for someone to steal from me, it's like, okay, well, it's obvious that you're lying to yourself, and the argument's over. There's nothing else I can do to help you. There's no other way I can change your mind, or, whatever. You're going to live in that lie. So the next question I have is...
one more thing on that one. I know we're short on time, but I just want to add one more thing. That whole scenario there, people just want to feel good about it. They want to sympathize with the victim there. And, maybe they do kind of think about it in that way, but they just don't want to be realistic. Like, hey, yeah, that's a wrongdoing, but, we don't need to worry about all those trivial little acts of theft, like, yes, we need to worry about theft at an aggregate level from the individual standpoint. But what I mean is that I'm not concerned with my local thugs that are going to come and possibly steal my chainsaw off my porch if I leave it out or something like that. I'll deal with them. What I'm concerned about is a system that enshrines that as a principle or as a virtue, where they know that it's wrong, but yet somehow it magically has been made into a standard code of virtuous conduct in society to be able to do those things, Like, I'm not concerned with my local thugs or the local thieves, I'm concerned with a society that enshrines the local thieves as the top pinnacle of the apex of evolution, of being civil and being, living in a moral society, quote unquote moral, because that has nothing to do with morality.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
Very well said. Yeah, so this is the fourth question. How can natural law affect me if I don't believe in it? And, that's I feel like we've kind of answered that already, but if you want to go ahead and give us a simple reason for that, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I kind of did answer that earlier. It doesn't matter if you believe in natural law or not. It doesn't matter if you believe in what other people believe in or not. Their beliefs, they're going to act upon their beliefs, and they can go out and harm people from their beliefs. So you don't have to believe in some religious extremist and for that person to go out and do a harmful action that affects you, But with natural law, see, that's a being with free will. Now, with natural law, it works out immutably. There is no free will in that, and it doesn't matter if you believe in that or not. Like we stated, it's going to play out that way because it's an inherent rule or condition that's the governing dynamics for the consequences of human behavior. It's a science, So of course it's going to affect you because you exist in this realm. We exist here together, and you are bound by these laws of creation. They are deterministic, and you have a choice to either understand them, live in harmony with them, or live out of harmony with them and suffer negative consequences, that we usually don't want to suffer.
The simple way I answer this question when someone says, like, how can natural law affect me if I don't believe in it is, how can gravity affect you if you don't believe in it? It's the same way. And I know you've already kind of said that, and I just wanted to state, like, that's just a very simple way that I have dealt with people, and obviously they want to know more, and that's why I'm having you, give these answers, because there is a lot more to it. It's just when you know it, it becomes more simple to understand.
Right.
So the fifth question, and once we get done with this question, we're going to end the show, and we will pick up the last question. I'll actually ask the last question before the end of the show, just so that way people know we're going to answer that question thoroughly on the beginning of the next show. But the fifth question that I have for you, Brandon, is most people will never live in accord to natural law. So why should I even try?
Well, why wouldn't you try? I mean, just because, are you dependent upon other people for you to be a good person or for you to help evolve the species? Like, if your premise is that since other people aren't doing this, then I shouldn't do it, or since other people are doing this, then I, should do that or shouldn't do that, then you're depending upon other people to gauge your own direction and what you should be doing based off what you understand to be true. You don't need to determine your behaviors by what other people are and are not doing, first of all.
It's like groupthink.
Yeah, that's groupthink, Another thing is that you're here to testify to nature itself that you understand these things. You're here to testify to the divine spirit, the one great spirit, that you understand these things and that you're willing to help evolve the whole, and that you are part of this, and that you understand this, and that you're awakened. It has nothing to do with what other people are doing or what they're not doing. This has to do with you. This has to do with you doing what is right and having the resolve and the care, the true care, to persistently never waver from staying in harmony with these principles.
Right. Very well said. That's something that I feel deeply has to be understood, because it seems that most people that I've come in contact with have this, groupthink mentality where, if everybody's on board with this, then I will jump on and do it. And, obviously I think there is, something a little bit inherent about that, because, you look at animals in nature and they, there's herds of animals, there's flocks of birds, they're doing what others are doing. But what has to be understood is, when you're living in accordance with natural law, and others who are living in accordance with natural law, well, you're harmonizing with them, and you're harmonizing with the law of creation, and you're already part of who else is doing it. So you're already, and I think that's what it is like most people who think that way, they don't think that they're actually, it's a materialistic way of believing that you're not part of the whole, because there's not we're not part of the one. We're just, we're all separated from each other.
Right. And it is what you're talking about. There's a sense of needing connection. There's a sense of wanting to be part of something. And this is why people fall into groupthink so easily, because we are social beings, and it sucks, but our species hasn't grown out of the idea of being herd animals, like that's really what we are. We're herd animals.
That's what I was getting to. Yeah.
And we have to realize that groupthink is very devastating, You can't have the two without the one. So it all comes back to the individual liberties. Like, you can't sacrifice liberties and then expect to expand that out and multiply that by each individual and expect to have more liberties. That's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. Mathematically, scientifically, it doesn't work that way. Get over it, grow up, understand it, get in harmony with it. But yeah, we naturally can be together collectively, and that we live under the law of one, and when we all start to do this individually, we'll have a natural, organic community of holistic beings, rather than a forced or fear-based groupthink, because it's usually based out of fear, insecurities, and things like that, where people are, very insecure, so they got to go with the flow, with the crowd, and everything like that. And it's like, we have to get over these shortcomings in our consciousness and start to be true individuals, because it all starts with the self.
Right. It's in a very deep symbolic way. It's about, King Arthur pulling the sword out from the stone. You have to take back your authority of the self and align with truth. And that's really what has to be deeply understood. And know that you are a water droplet in a sea of other souls. You're not separate from anyone, and you have to remember that you are an influence to everyone else, and you do have power. And if you believe that you don't have power, then you're going to stay locked in the prison, especially the mind. And it's about, remembering, to remember who you truly are, because we've been dismembered, and we have to put in this type of work to come back to that connection to nature, to the one, and take
That's
back
right, Nate.
the
Another thing I
authority.
would say is, like, why wouldn't you want to be the change that you want to see in the world? Like,
Right.
That's what Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So why wouldn't you want to be that, Why wouldn't you want to make a better condition for all of us to live by making yourself better, and by you understanding these laws, so that we do not create chaos in our lives and in other people's lives. So yeah, let's all be the change that we want to see, and collectively we'll start to do this together. We'll all harmonize together. You know, it's like not everybody plays the same instrument in a symphony. You know, we all have different instruments, but we're all going to harmonize together to make a great, you know, composition of that music. So we need to understand that. Yes, some of us have the same instruments, but not all of us. So we need to unify in our task and understand where our talents are. And the base thing is hey, you know, there's a science underneath of that symphony that we all understand, and we live in harmony with the requirements to make that beautiful, you know, composition of music come together. And that's how it works. That's how we create great masterpieces, is by living in harmony with the requirements, and then adding our own creativity on top of those things and expanding upon those and coming together with those things. So, you know, I can't stand it when people are in that defeatist mentality, you know, like, oh, they're not going to do this. Nobody's going to live in harmony with natural law, so why should I ever do that? And it's such a weak position. It's self-defeatism, and it's fear. You know, let's just call it what it is. It's fear.
Right. Yeah, it's just completely the give up mentality, and it sucks because it seems like a lot of people have that.
Right.
That like where it becomes overwhelming when you know the truth, when you know that, you know, you're awake and you're seeing, well, you know, you're at a high degree of being awake, and you see what's really going on. You see the beauty in nature. You see your true connection, and you're trying to help other people, and they are just like, you know what? You can open that cage door, and I'm just going to sit right here, and I'm not going to walk out because I'm comfortable in here.
Right.
Okay, so the last question that I have, or, you know, the last question that I have for this show that we're going to answer on the next show is, why is natural law not widely known? And we're going to answer that on podcast number 16. So definitely stay tuned for that. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Brandon, before we go?
No, thank you for having me on this episode, and I'm excited to continue, you know, to put this material out there. I hope everybody has been getting something from this material. And if you, like I said last time, if you have any questions or you need anything from us personally, you're welcome to email us or contact us. My information's on the CubbyWhole website, and so is Nate's. So, you know, let's do this together. Let's make freedom happen.
Absolutely. And, you know, I didn't realize that all these questions were going to, you know, take this long, but you know what? That's what has to be done. Sometimes you have to take your time and explain things thoroughly and show the examples to help people understand what the principles are and what the laws of nature truly are and how they operate. So that way they can, so we can come to an accurate understanding of what's really going on, because we have a foundation. Because that's what principles are. They're foundations. That's what laws are. They're foundations. They're there to help us understand how the rest of things work. So that's all the time we have today, guys, for this show. So thanks for tuning in and giving this information your time and attention. You can find more of our work at CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. And of course, there you will find the news updates. We're going to be talking about the Seed Conference coming up next May. So stay tuned for that. There's also videos and lots more. And we hope you have found value here today. And please tune in to the next show, especially because you want to know why natural law is not widely known. So it's really important to watch these shows, these natural law shows. Like I said at the beginning, start at podcast 1 and work your way through. Or if you want to start just with natural law, Obviously, it's a topic that we'll be talking about all the time, but I started out the topic natural law on podcast 9, so definitely go back to that and work your way forward. And you definitely won't want to miss any show, and it's a tapestry of information, so make sure you start at the beginning so you have a better understanding. And that being said, that's pretty much all we have today. So thanks, Brandon, and thank you all for listening. Have a great day.
Thanks again if you made it this far. Don't forget to go to w.gg and use code BeagleEyeVision to get 10% off to help out the channel. Give CubbyWhole all of your money, and we are going to keep cranking these out. I thought I had something more to say, but I guess it lost me. Maybe I'll remember it the next episode. And maybe I'll even level up next episode too. So there you have it. Thank you if you made it this far. Be sure to support the Michiana Education and Arts Club as well to preserve or to promote literacy, education, and the arts throughout the Michiana area. Definitely an awesome movement. You should join. Look up MEAC on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel. Look up MEAC on Facebook. All the social media stuff. Support if you value this information. Thanks again if you made it this far. Yeah, I'm gonna go upload this now, and hopefully we'll see you next time for episode number 16. All right, stay tuned, stay golden.